What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another quarantine car talk. Today's topic is going to be, of course, power adders, superchargers, turbos, nitrous, pros, cons of each, and which one you might want to go with and why. And maybe why not want to go with some. So stick around. We're going to give a couple minutes for people to join in. So if you want, you can probably skip over to about the 2-minute mark as we let more people come in. And of course, this is a live video. So go ahead and wait a few minutes and again, talk about power adders and pros, cons, and which ones are better than others. In the meantime, hope everyone is doing well and staying safe. And, you know, we've got a lot of stuff going on around the country and in the world, and hopefully everyone's being safe and staying safe, and we can get through this eventually, sooner rather than later, hopefully. In the meantime, for those of you joining, go ahead and comment down below, say hi, hit the thumbs up button. That I believe helps YouTube kind of push out this live video. What's going on, Law? Give it a few more minutes just to let people kind of come in. What's going on, GP? How you guys doing? It's Monday. Here we go. Got one or two more people joining. Give it a few more seconds, and then we'll just get right into the topic. Not let you guys wait any longer. All right, guys. So today's topic is power adders. We've got boost or nitrous, and there's different types of boosts. You've got superchargers, positive displacement blowers. You've got superchargers or centrifugal blowers, and then you've also got turbos, and then finally you have nitrous. Now, why would you want to go one versus the other? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the pros and cons of each individual type of power adder, and we'll start off with a supercharger first. So a supercharger or positive displacement blower is going to be something that replaces your manifold. Basically, your intake manifold gets removed and you slap this supercharger on top. Excuse me, sorry about that. You slap the supercharger on top, and then what happens with that is it is very, very easy to bolt on. So let's go with some of the pros of this. The pros are that it's a direct bolt-on part. For the most part, usually doesn't require much cutting or much modification to the car itself. It replaces your intake manifold and uses air to water to cool the rotors and the intercoolers inside the unit itself. Another pro is that it is instant boost. So it's not like a turbo that builds boost or like a pro charger that builds boost with RPM. This thing hits instant boost right away. So whatever your boost is at, if you have 10, 12, 15 pounds of boost, as soon as you match the throttle, you're seeing that right then and there. Very, very good response time from these. Another pro is that they've got varying sizes depending on, you know, the power level that you want to go to. So you can go with the smaller supercharger and then bigger supercharger. And swapping out boost levels is very simple. You just remove a pulley and put another pulley in. Super simple. So the supercharger has instant boost, a lot of torque because of the instant boost, and very easy to install. A lot of people love the supercharger because it gives you that instant power feeling, that instant torque feeling. And that is what people are going to be really seeing and using throughout the day on the street most of the time. So that is one big plus. And for someone that would drive a car mainly on the street and want that feel of a supercharger's instant kick, the supercharger is the way to go on that car. Some cons of it is related to the pros. Now, because it has such an instant torque hit, such a strong power right off of idle, you tend to be a lot harder on your drive line if you drag race the car quite a bit. So if you're taking a supercharged car to the track, that instant power right off the throttle is going to make it harder for you to hook. You're going to need a lot better suspension. Your drive shaft, your axles, all that would need to get beefed up. So you would eventually have to upgrade all that when going supercharger route. Now, that's something that just inherent about having that instant torque, instant power, and all the boost right off the bat. Your transmission's more than likely going to start slipping, and you're going to have issues with transmissions a lot sooner than you would with some of the other power adders. So those are the cons of the supercharger. It makes it a lot harder to hook at the drag strip and on the street. Now, they're really, really great from a roll, things like that. If you have still have to have good tires, but it just makes it harder because of that instant power. Great for daily driving, street driving, where you want to feel that power instantly, and they can make very good power. So really, really great overall. So that is the supercharger. How's it going, Kristen Morrison? Good of you to join us. So we just finished talking about the supercharger. Now let's talk about the ProCharger. So a ProCharger centrifugal blower. There's a few other brands out there. Believe AA. If you're in the Corvette world, they have the AA blowers and a few other different brands. So the centrifugal supercharger is similar to a main positive displacement supercharger, but it uses a belt to turn a turbo style looking housing, and that usually is off to the side of the engine, and it looks almost like a turbo, but it's belt driven, and it behaves very similar to a turbo as well. These require a little bit more modification, more piping. There's a lot more piping. You eliminate an air intake because you have the blower itself for the most part. And then a centrifugal supercharger has the similar kind of combo of a turbo and a supercharger, and that is you get a blow-off valve as well, which is one of the pros for sure of the ProCharger or centrifugal supercharger is the blow-off valve. These blowers have a blow-off valve that is going to simulate similar to a turbo, and those things sound awesome. I had it on my ProCharge G8, and I loved it. One of the definite pros of that style of setup. Another pro is that it builds boost through the RPM. So it doesn't have the instant hit that the supercharger does, but it builds it in or ramps it in. How fast it ramps it in all depends on the pulley, and the size of the supercharger head unit you can get. You can swap those out. So that helps kind of eliminate one of the cons from the superchargers, and that is the instant driveline shock and having trouble with hooking at the track. You have a lot easier time hooking with a ProCharger than you do with a supercharger. So those are some good things about the ProCharger, and they make quite a bit of power as well. They make it more on the upper RPM, the higher RPM. So if you've got a car that you want to get power band up in the high RPM, then ProCharger is a good way to go. If you want a car on the lower RPM, the lower band, then a supercharger is going to be the one that gets you all that extra power. So that is the ProCharger. It requires a little bit more work to install than a supercharger, but overall you do get some of those benefits of not shocking the driveline system. And pulley swaps are very simple and can increase the power of your supercharger or the boost significantly. So that is the ProCharger. Very, very similar to a supercharger, but you do get a little easier driveline shock because you don't have the instant turbo supercharger power or torque, but you lose some power down low and you make it up in the top. The supercharger makes a lot of great power down low and can still make power up top, just doesn't cap out. I think a Pro Charger would make a little bit more power up on the higher RPM range. So that is the difference between those two superchargers. And other than that, I don't believe there's any other type of superchargers. So we'll move on to turbos now. Now, turbos are like the thing everyone wants, right? They seem to basically have unlimited power, and you can size them up different ways. The only thing is turbo kits are getting a lot better. They used to be very custom, very unique, very modified, get your own piping and figure out your way. Nowadays, there's a lot of companies offering bolt-on turbo kits, which is amazing. They have a lot of different extra parts to them, which is one of the downsides to them. Turbos have a lot more parts that could be a potential point of failure. A turbo consists of the actual turbine housing, the actual turbo itself, but then you also have a wastegate, which basically is relieving or rerouting the exhaust gases away from the turbine housing so that you don't run up too much boost. Then you also have a blow-off valve to eliminate any of the boost inside of your intake track so it doesn't blow up. Basically generate more boost in when you let off the gas. And then depending on where the turbos are mounted, whether you have them on the top above the engine or mounted down low by the transmission or under the engine, you're going to need different types of setups for the cooling. And there's 3 major turbo styles right now that are available. One just recently got released at the end of last year, which is the air-cooled turbo. And that is the one that I'm most excited about, guys. The air-cooled turbo eliminates a lot of the custom DIY modifying of any type of coolant lines or oil lines in the oil pans that, you know, really drew back a lot of people from installing these turbo kits themselves. And that's because it uses just a certain type of high temp grease and air to cool the turbos and keep them nice and cool, which is amazing because that eliminates anything from a scavenge oil pump to route oil through from the engine to the turbos and back out as the original turbos were. You've got the oiled turbos, which were oil cooled, and you had to do AM fittings and tap into the oil pan, had to have a pump to pump the oil back into the oil pan, oil lines running to the turbos. And if you had 2, you could just imagine how many lines you're going to be running. And in these cars nowadays, there's very, very limited space around the engine bay. They're cramming everything into very, very small space. And trust me, I've been working on the car and routing everything around. There is no space. So air-cooled turbos, which are the newest, greatest ones. And I know Jack from Determined Veteran is installing some of those on his GT350. I'm really excited to hear his experience with them. But air-cooled turbos are going to be a big game changer for those wanting to do bolt-on turbo kits because it eliminates the biggest headache of running extra lines for oil, and even the next type of turbos, which is the liquid-cooled turbos, which are coolant-cooled. They're cooled, but they don't use oil, they use coolant. So they tap into your coolant system. And most setups, they have you cut into your heater hose and put a T in that. So you basically tee off of that and you're able to run coolant lines down into the turbos, which is a little better than the oil because if one of those leaks, then you just run low on coolant and you can kind of fix that pretty easily. But if you run low on oil, that can damage your engine. So those are the 3. You have oil cooled, which is the oldest technology. You've got the liquid cooled, which is coolant cooled, and then you have the air cooled. So air cooled obviously seems to be the best right now, no extra wires, and would make a turbo kit as simple as to install as something like a supercharger or a Pro Charger. So that negates a lot of the negatives of a turbo kit in having that air cooled turbo. Then so the positives of it, though, is going to be great, is that you can pretty much generate as much power as you want. Turbos are able to change their boost with a boost controller at a push of a button. You don't have to swap out pulleys. So it's a lot easier to change the boost levels on turbos than it is on superchargers or pro chargers because of a boost controller and just controlling the wastegate to generate the different levels of boost. So definitely big pro of the turbo is the fact that you can have it have a turbo system that is built to be able to handle 1200 horsepower, but run it at 600 horsepower or 700 horsepower without having to change any parts or anything, just pressing a couple buttons. So very big positive of the turbo is that it has the ability to run at different levels based on different boosts. The other positive is that it grows with you. The system pretty much can grow indefinitely as long as you have all the other supporting mods of engine and all that. So really awesome. The negatives of a turbo is that you do require a couple other things because it builds boost. It's gonna be a lot. You can't run it with, at least off the line, hard without having some kind of two-step or RPM limiter to build the boost. So you're having to buy this extra component to get at the light, press a button, hold the gas down, generate a bunch of exhaust gases to build the boost up, and then be able to let go and take off. If you don't have that, just put brake in it. You're not going to be able to build as much boost, and the car will take off really easy, which is great for your suspension and components and for all the driveline components. You won't really put that much strain on them. But if you're trying to go faster, you're going to need some kind of two-step or some way of like generating the boost, picking up the boost up. So that is one drawback to the turbos. And the other is, of course, when you're roll racing, you have to basically be on the brakes and give it gas to basically brake boost. And that's going to wear down your brakes a lot, and you're going to have to be swapping out brakes all the time. So it's a lot harder and more intricate to work on drive a turbo car. I feel like there's just more things that you have to keep an eye on and working on to launch, to take off, and all that. So that's my cons with the turbo, but they are considered above and beyond the better boost option if you want something to grow with you. And then finally, guys, we've got our nitrous system as a power adder, and that is, of course, what I went with and currently in the process of installing, and I'm already on day 2, and let's just say it's a lot more in depth than I thought, especially with the dedicated fuel system. And nitrous, guys, that is probably the cheapest option with power adders. So you've got turbos being the most expensive and superchargers and prochargers in the middle. And then nitrous is the least initial expense. And that's because you can get a full, very well optioned out kit of nitrous for $3,500 to $4,000. And that is, I'm talking about the works when you get to that level. Dedicated fuel system, big purge nitrous kit, big 15-pound bottle. I mean, the works. Your timing box to retard the timing, and a decent controller, a progressive controller. And nitrous is great because you can, with the right parts, you can actually add nitrous to a bone stock car on a stock tune and still go out there and run it using this something like a timing box to pull the timing. I mean, just change some plugs out, adjust the timing box to retard a certain amount of degrees of timing when you're spraying nitrous with a good window switch and RPM control. On a bone stock car, bone stock tune, you could spray 100 shot or 150 shot and give yourself an extra 100 to 150 horsepower without touching anything in the tune or anything like that. Now, obviously, if you've got other mods and stuff, you want to make sure your tune is dialed in, but it makes it so much easier to gain that extra power that you otherwise would have had to, do a lot of things to your car to get. So I've got heads and cam on my Camaro, and the heads and cam and all the bolt-ons I've done have gained me about, I would say, 120 to 150 horsepower. Well, I could have easily just put a nitrous kit on the car, kept it bone stock, and added the 150 shot and be at the same speed that the car is now. So that is the very much appeal of nitrous. Now, some of the positives are that it's a lot cheaper, and it will work even on a stock tune with the right parts. It's very adjustable, so you can swap out and change, go from a 50 shot to 100 to 150 to 200 shot very easily with changing out jets, similar to changing out a pulley on a supercharger. So you can adjust that. There's a lot more to know about nitrous, so you do have to change spark plugs, and you do have to check that out a lot more often. Now, one thing that makes nitrous very simple is that you could use something. You don't need a dedicated fuel system the way I did. You can run it right off of the fuel line as well and make a system install much easier. But nevertheless, that is where we're at, and that's how that works. Nitrous is great. I'm doing it because it's a little cheaper route, and with the right options can be very reliable. Many people feel like nitrous is the most unreliable option, but with the right pieces and the right safety measures, it can be just as reliable. So very, very much a lot of different ways to go about it, guys. So nitrous does involve a lot more wiring, a lot of electrical. And so if you're not too electrical inclined, then you might want to look at the other options. But it does require more routing. In my case, I'm having to route a nitrous line along with fuel feed and return lines, which with these Camaros, guys, it's so difficult to try to find a good way to route this stuff. But we're doing our best, and hopefully we can get it all set up right and show you guys in future videos just how I ran and set up all that stuff. But anyways, guys, that is some of the pros and cons, the different options, and what the different types of power adders do. So yeah, I've got Brian Condi. What's up? How's it going, man? Yeah. Every now and then I hear some turbo cars or pro charge cars, and I do miss the G8. What's going on, Mark? So hope all you guys are doing good, and that is kind of my little talk today. Hope that kind of gave you guys some insights, and I'd like to hear you guys' comments and thoughts on what you think is better and why, supercharger, pro charger, or nitrous. So if you can, go ahead and comment and let me know what you guys think. And if you guys have any other questions, general questions, car questions, I'd love to see if hopefully answer them. In the meantime, I guess I can talk about how my nitrous install is going. And let's just say I'm taking my time, so it's not. There's going to be a video coming out tomorrow, my day one, where I kind of went through and installed a few things. I ran into a few hiccups, but I was able to kind of get all that figured out. And now, right now, what I've got done, I've installed the fuel cell, installed the brackets. I've ran the nitrous line from the trunk all the way to the front, got all that taken care of. I've gone ahead and kind of fitted my fuel pressure regulator for my standalone system. And there are a few things that, what's going on, Jose? There's a few things that I'm missing that they just weren't in the kit from Nitrous Outlet. A couple grommets for the holes where my fuel lines are going to go. I came with one grommet, but I needed two, so I'm missing two of the grommets. And then also, what else? I've got all the fittings to make all my fuel lines. I've got all the fittings for the fuel pressure regulator. I've got all that set up, but my nitrous fuel solenoid it's a smaller AN fittings. I think it's like a 4 AN fitting, and all the lines are, I think, 6 AN or -6 lines. So I don't have any way of connecting the output of my fuel pressure regulator to the nitrous solenoid. So I'm still I sent Nitrous Outlet an email, because this is, of course, a dedicated ZL1 nitrous fuel system, or 6th gen fuel system along, and it's also a MSD Camaro specific fuel nitrous kit. So I was hoping that I'd have the two pieces there. Jose, no, I'm not actually. I don't. There's no need to upgrade to the LT4 injectors or the LT4 high pressure pump. That's one of the reasons why I decided to go with the standalone fuel system, because I didn't want to have to spend the extra another like $1,000 on the high pressure injectors and the injectors in the fuel pump. And so nitrous doesn't even require. So nitrous doesn't use the high pressure side. Nitrous uses the low pressure side, so I would have had to upgrade the low pressure fuel pump, and that would have required me to drop the tank and all that, which I was not going to do. So I went with the fuel cell so that I can run C16 higher octane, 116 octane race fuel in there to help me with detonation and all that, to keep this engine nice and safe and happy. So no, I won't be upgrading the LT4 injectors or the LT4 high pressure fuel pump. So I've got all that stuff that I'm kind of waiting on Nitrous Outlet to hear back from them. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy that I'm missing, and Nitrous Outlet can provide it so that we can continue with the build down the line. But it shouldn't stop me from being able to run the major hoses and getting all that fuel system stuff set up, so I don't have to worry about it. And so after I make up the feed and the return line, I'll have to make up the feed line to the solenoid or look for one that wasn't provided. But I'll do all that, and then the final part of this whole thing will be the wiring. I've still got to do all the wiring, which hopefully I can find out. There's not much space in the engine bay for me to do all kinds of things. I do need to install the engine filter RPM timing box somewhere in the engine bay, and so I want to keep it kind of clean. I've got to do all the relays. I'm thinking of having the relays down in the footwell on the passenger side, tucked up on top, and then run all the outputs outwards. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I'll have to see how long the wires are and if I can make my own wiring and do my own harness. But what's going on, George? And no worries, man. It's all good. So a lot of questions up in the air of how I'm going to do the wiring. I haven't really, until I start kind of piecing things and putting things together, then we'll start seeing how it all ends up. But for now, my idea is to have the mini NOS controller installed in the glove box or tucked up under the passenger footwell with the controller like accessible for me. The engine filter timing box, I don't think I'll be able to install inside the car. It'll be somewhere in the engine bay. I've still got to find out where I'm going to put it, but I've got to put that tucked away or in a nice spot. And then I've also got to run all the triggers, all the wires. It's going to be a long week for me for sure. But I love doing this stuff, and hopefully I'll get it done right and everything will work on the first try, because with wiring, we all know things can change and we just got to kind of track everything down. But anyways, guys, anybody have any questions or any topics they want to talk about? Only 4 people today, but it's all good. I sure do. This was a perfect timing for me to do the nitrous kit. I've got the car in the garage on the lift and just sitting there. And by the way, guys, the Quick Jacks, by far the best thing that I could have had. I mean, I've had to raise and lower that car so many times in the last 2 days, 3 days. It's just been nonstop raising and lowering the car and making sure that I can mount and access certain screws and bolts and run the nitrous lines and up and down. And it's just been really, really nice. What's your end goal and why? My end goal is for the car to be at about 650 to 700 horsepower and hopefully run high 9s. I think that's pretty doable, and 650 to 700 is kind of pushing it on the edge of the stock internals. But I'm hoping with the race fuel, the higher octane fuel, and all the timing components that I'm going to be using, it'll be relatively safe. And so 650 to 700 horsepower, and mid to high nine, pretty much a high 9-second pass is kind of my goal with the Camaro as it sits. Yeah, I think that's going to be the best that the car can do, or that it'll do with the stock block, the stock bottom end. And hopefully I can run that all day long throughout this year. And then next year, we're going to possibly change this up again and maybe go with something like a built motor, and then either spray it with a much higher shot of nitrous, or switch it up and go finally boosted with the built motor. But yep, my end goal right now with the stock block is 650 to 700 horsepower, and mainly because that's all that block is going to take, and I don't want to have to break that block or cause any issues to the car. Again, with using race gas, you don't really need to pull any timing, especially if you're only doing 50 or 100 shot of nitrous or 150 shot. I think even at 150 shot, you can run without pulling any timing, the C16 race. But I'm going to treat that C16 race gas like if it was 93 octane gas, and pull back 2 degrees for every 50 shots. So when I spray a 50 shot, I'm going to pull back 2 degrees. And when I spray a 100 shot, it'll be 4 degrees. And when I spray a 150, it'll be 6 degrees. So hopefully that'll keep me very, very safe and let the stock bottom end live throughout the rest of the year. If you go boost, what setup you're going to go with? Procharger, turbo, or supercharger? So right now I'm really interested in seeing what Jack over at Determined Veteran experiences with his air-cooled turbos. Those are the latest and greatest that I just mentioned. He's installing those on the GT350, and the cool thing about those is they don't use any coolant or oil. They're literally just, you inject grease, high temperature grease into it, and then it just uses air to cool itself. And so I think that would be really, really cool. Make it very easy, bolt-on, do at home turbo kit. So Huron Speed, I believe, has a bolt-on turbo kit that you can install, and I think that along with those air-cooled turbos would be pretty nice. And with a built motor, the turbos are going to give me the most top-end stuff. And with the timing box that I already have from the nitrous kit, I can go ahead and do our launch control, RPM limiter to build boost and all that stuff, and be pretty nice. So I'm thinking if I do boost, it'll probably be a turbo. It'd be a turbo or possibly a supercharger. I love Prochargers, but I think I've already had that. I'd try to do something different, either supercharger like a Magnuson 2650 or twin turbo kit. Just depends on where we're at and if I end up getting this Z06 or not. So we'll see where the money's at and what we can do. Anybody else got any questions? Anything you guys want to talk about? Yes, sir. But for now, I'm hoping I can run the nitrous on the stock block and show everyone that it's very nice and safe. Law, I am on the wait list. I'm already on a wait list. I put down my deposit. So is this all in fun, or are you doing some kind of pro racing? Just for fun. This is just my own personal need for speed, I guess. So yeah, no pro racing, just my all for fun to feel the exuberance of the speed. And I guess depending on how fast I go, I might need to put a roll cage in the car, and we'll see what we do after that. But yeah, just for fun. And going back to law, yes, sir. I'm on the wait list or the reservation list. I'm number 10, I believe, 10 or 11 on the list at the dealership. So it hasn't even been announced yet. The car probably won't even be released or sold until the end of 2021, maybe early 2022. So it's still a ways out. But we'll know more hopefully as towards the end of this summer. We'll know more at the end of the summer, kind of what the specs are going to be. Hopefully they start releasing a few things, maybe get some more ideas of what engine it's going to have, how it's going to look, and things like that. But the goal is to possibly get a Z06 here at the end of next year. And I had to get on that list already now, because if you wait till they announce it, you're going to be too late and you're not going to get one of the first ones. So I wanted to be one of the first ones, and so I'm already on the list. How fast, George Brown asks, how fast will you need to go for you to install the roll cage? So I believe it is, if you run anything under 9 seconds, anything under 10 seconds, sorry, so a 999 or 140 or 135 miles an hour, I believe is what they mentioned. They told Jack at his track. It's 135 or 136 miles an hour and 136 miles or a 99. So I'm getting close up there to it, and we'll see how it goes. And Darren, dude, I'm happy I could help, man. I'm glad I could help. But yes, if they do, there are a few companies that make like bolt-on roll cages, which I don't believe are true NHRA like reliable, but for the tracks, they go that fast. But we'll see. All right, guys, got a couple more minutes here, and then I'm gonna be checking out. Time to go to work tomorrow. Today was my day off, and now I gotta go back to work. What are your guys' plans, or what do you guys have going on with your cars, or what are you guys working on with your cars? All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night for today. I hope you guys are staying safe. You guys be careful and make sure to practice your social distancing. I know we have, and just got to kind of keep doing our thing, and hopefully everything in this world will go back to normal. In the meantime, I'll continue to do these quarantine car talks here. I'll do another one tomorrow, and I'll come up with another topic, and we'll see how it goes. Last couple questions here is Lawson says Longtooth should be on next month. That's awesome, man. You're going to see a big difference. Is ceramic worth it? GP Racer, are you talking about like ceramic coatings for like your paint, or ceramic coating for like headers for like heat related stuff? And George Brown, you and a guy named Dadmons on YouTube live down 45 South. Should go to the track and do a race. He's got a pretty nice car. I've seen his channel. I follow his channel. He's got a 426 built Hemi with a Procharger on a Dodge Charger. So that once I get my nitrous, yes sir, same time tomorrow. Once I get my nitrous, I guess it would be a pretty good race. Now, I know he's had issues with his car taking it to the track and not running as well as he would want it to run. I think his car was running like high 10s or low 11s. That's the best he's been able to get. So who knows? Maybe I'd be able to have a good run against him without the nitrous. But if he can get all his things figured out and have the car run good, then I'll need the nitrous to keep up. And GP Racer, yes, it is definitely worth it for the paint. Ceramic coating is very, very much worth it. I've done it to a few of my vehicles, and it makes washing the cars so much easier. It also makes the swirls and all that pretty much get eliminated. Now, you do have to correct the car before you ceramic coat if you really want to see that big difference. And so that would remove all the swirls. Paint correcting will remove all your swirls, and then of course you can finish it off with a ceramic coat on top, and you will see a big noticeable difference in just how easy it is to wash the cars and how dirt doesn't really stick on. So definitely worth it. And you can go with any name brand. I mean, I've gone with, you can do Chemical Guys. I personally use Adams products. I think they're the more easier, consumer-friendly, DIY-friendly products. They've got a great lineup of different things that you can use. So I've always gone and used their stuff just because it's easy for DIYers, but really great stuff. You won't go wrong, trust me. I believe you can buy like their spray kit that's really easy to like install and take off, and you can try it on. It'll last like a couple months. And if you're not truly sure if you want to go through the whole full ceramic, coating, then you can try the spray-on silicone ceramic coating and see how that feels. And if once you feel that, then you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to do the ceramic coating. Darian Lopez says, "Won't nitrous blow up your engine?" It could, but nitrous needs a lot. There's a lot of things that you have to do to the car. So I'm installing a lot of different parts, not just the bottle, the nitrous, and the solenoids. I've got a nitrous controller to spray only at a certain RPM range and only when my throttle pedal's all the way down. I've got a timing box to pull timing back when it's spraying nitrous, because of course you want to pull back some timing so you don't have predetonation. I'm also using C16 race gas as the fuel for the nitrous solenoid, or for the fuel solenoid. So that is going to help prevent all the predetonation and be safer for the car to run nitrous. And so if it's done right, nitrous can be very, very safe. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to cut it here, but can you use C16 and 85? Yes. So C6, you can use the E85 is what I'm going to be running in the car, and that's going to be direct injected through the fuel system. The C16 is going to be a standalone fuel cell, and yes, you can mix them. What C16 is going to do is it's going to give me the extra fuel I need for my nitrous, but it's going to allow it to basically not pre-detonate and give me safety factor versus me using just pure E85. But anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. And I hope you guys stay safe and have a good one.